That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
In a stunning turn of events, AMC Theatres, the largest cinema chain in the United States, has officially pulled Disney's highly anticipated live-action remake of Snow White from all of its screens following catastrophic box office results.
Yeah, I have a clip of it.
Oh, okay, great.
Her being a retard.
Okay.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
That laugh.
That is
not going to be saved by
You
the
wrote
prince.
it?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
This move, rare for a film of such pedigree, signals a seismic shift in the entertainment landscape where not even the Disney brand can guarantee success. AMC cited financial losses and low attendance as the primary reasons, noting that continuing to screen the film would be an unsustainable drain on resources. What was once forecasted as a blockbuster has now become a cautionary tale.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
As Disney's attempt to reinvent a classic failed to resonate with audiences, forcing AMC to reallocate its screens to more profitable titles. Industry insiders were taken aback by the abrupt decision, which was described as unprecedented for a Disney film. Many speculate that the removal marks a watershed moment for both studios and exhibitors, signaling that even the most iconic IPs are vulnerable when controversy outweighs content.
Our rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The
Our
right to buy
reproductive
Cosby
rights.
sweaters?
Come on.
That's the face
Go
of a
vote blue.
serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
Central to the collapse of Snow White was lead actress Rachel Zegler, whose public comments during the film's promotional tour sparked considerable outrage. Zegler, cast as the titular character, made several remarks across interviews and social media, which many fans interpreted as dismissive of the 1937 animated original. Her statement that Snow White won't be dreaming about true love, but instead wants to be a leader, ignited a cultural firestorm, with detractors accusing her of disrespecting the emotional core that made the original beloved.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
So we didn't do that this time.
Social media platforms erupted, and hashtags like Not My Snow White began trending. Globally, what was meant to be a modern update resonating with today's values quickly backfired as audiences accused the production of being tone-deaf and preachy. Zegler's tone, while possibly intended to empower, was seen by many as condescending, and critics argued that the film's reimagining sacrificed heart for ideology.
You don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely, when it got announced,
He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
Her unfiltered personality, once viewed as a breath of fresh air, became the match that ignited a PR disaster, with fans accusing Disney of pushing an agenda at the expense of storytelling. The controversy reached a boiling point during a scheduled appearance on The View, where what became known as the meltdown unfolded live before millions of viewers. Zegler, expected to follow a carefully prepared script crafted by Disney's PR team, instead went off message, discussing political issues unrelated to the film and doubling down on her earlier criticisms of the original Snow White.
We need to no, you don't need, it's not your job. Your job is to entertain. You are paid to entertain.
Producers on set attempted to steer her back on topic, but she resisted, creating an awkward and chaotic broadcast. According to eyewitnesses, off-camera staff made frantic efforts to shut the segment down as her remarks became more inflammatory. The broadcast abruptly cut to commercial as Zegler was escorted off the set, and while only part of the meltdown, aired clips and first-hand accounts quickly flooded the internet. Memes, jokes, and widespread condemnation followed, ensuring the moment would would dominate headlines and derail any chance of the film salvaging its reputation. Commentators, including Joe Rogan, called it a PR catastrophe, suggesting it symbolized the precise moment when Disney lost control of its narrative. Media figures like Joe Rogan devoted extensive airtime to analyzing the breakdown of Disney's marketing strategy and public perception. Rogan emphasized that the meltdown was more than a single failed interview.
In every way that the movie differed from the beloved 1937 original, it was worse.
It was a cultural event that highlighted growing resentment toward Hollywood's efforts to modernize classic tales without preserving their spirit. On his podcast, he noted that Rachel Zegler's unfiltered commentary, combined with Disney's clumsy damage control, resulted in a perfect storm of outrage that transcended typical film criticism. The event exposed how social media amplifies missteps into full-blown crises, especially when a studio as influential as Disney is involved. Rogan dissected how the original Snow White's themes had been gutted in favor of political messaging, and that Disney underestimated the audience's attachment to those core values. He argued that the incident marked a collapse in the long-standing trust between studio and fan base, and the moment the public began to actively rebel against what they perceived as manufactured progressivism. The promotional campaign that was supposed to elevate the film only added fuel to the fire. From contradictory statements by cast members to rumors of behind-the-scenes conflict, the rollout was anything but smooth. Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, attempted to maintain a neutral public persona, but her presence was largely overshadowed by the chaos surrounding Zegler. Reports began circulating that Zegler had made disparaging remarks about Gadot's background or views, further fueling the perception that the production was plagued with discord. Disney's marketing team struggled to control the message, and instead of a coordinated media blitz, the public was met with confusion and mixed messaging. The usual Disney synergy, tight control over its stars, carefully curated sound bites, and feel-good interviews, was missing. Instead, the cast appeared disjointed and the narrative incoherent, reflecting a studio that had lost grip on its own project. As controversy grew, so did the resistance from fans. The reimagined storyline, which stripped away core elements such as the prince's role and romantic arc, was met with suspicion and disdain. Longtime Disney enthusiasts viewed the changes not as progressive improvements, but as cynical revisions designed to score political points. Many took offense at the suggestion that the original story was outdated or irrelevant. Online discourse devolved into cultural warfare, with critics decrying Disney's efforts as a form of ideological colonization. For many, Rachel Zegler became the personification of everything wrong with the remake, and even neutral observers found it difficult to ignore the sea of discontent. Attempts to paint her as a misunderstood voice of modernity failed to resonate. Instead, audiences viewed her comments as dismissive toward tradition, family values, and childhood nostalgia. As AMC executives evaluated the rapidly declining attendance numbers, it became increasingly clear that continuing to screen Snow White was not financially viable. Empty theaters, especially on opening weekend, sent a chilling message to both exhibitors and the studio. Even families who normally flock to Disney films chose alternatives, either turned off by the controversy or uninterested in the new storyline. Theater managers reportedly noticed patrons walking past Snow White posters without a second glance. AMC, typically a key partner in Disney's theatrical strategy, opted to end the experiment early, marking the first time a major Disney release was pulled so swiftly from wide distribution. Internally, the decision was seen as necessary damage. Control, cut losses, remove the film, and move on. Publicly, however, the message was unmistakable. The film had become toxic. In the wake of AMC's announcement, speculation erupted about whether Disney might pivot to an early streaming release on Disney+. While doing so could help recoup some losses, it also risks reinforcing the public's perception of the film as a failure. Disney typically prioritizes long theatrical windows for its prestige titles, but in this case, the studio was reportedly exploring ways to quietly transition the film off the big screen. This would allow them to avoid additional embarrassment while trying to reposition the title as family-friendly content for streaming audiences. Yet the optics are delicate. A hasty move to Disney Plus could confirm that the theatrical run had been a total disaster. Even so, with theaters like AMC and others dropping the film, Disney's options were narrowing quickly. The Meltdown's long-term impact goes beyond this one release. It cast a spotlight on Disney's strategy of remaking animated classics with modern twists, raising the question of whether the formula is still effective. Critics argue that the studio has leaned too heavily on brand recognition, assuming that nostalgia would mask any dissatisfaction with story changes or casting. But Snow White's failure proves that audiences are willing to reject even the most iconic titles if the adaptation feels hollow, disrespectful, or politically forced. Joe Rogan noted that future live-action productions will likely come with stricter press controls and revised casting considerations. Disney may now require stars to adhere closely to talking points or vet them more thoroughly for PR compatibility. Finally, The Meltdown has left an indelible mark on Hollywood, serving as a textbook example of what can go wrong when publicity, politics, and storytelling collide. The fallout reached beyond the film itself, tainting Rachel Zegler's image, damaging Disney's credibility, and shaking the trust between major studios and their audiences. Late-night talk shows, YouTubers, and online pundits turned the fiasco into a punchline, while industry insiders reevaluated the risks of high profile remakes in a media environment where every misstep is magnified. Snow White will not be remembered for its visuals, performances, or innovation. It will be remembered as the film that spiraled into chaos and forced the largest theater chain in the US to say enough. In doing so, it redefined the limits of studio influence and demonstrated how swiftly public sentiment can turn, making The Meltdown not just a media moment but a cultural reckoning.